Hey guys, this is Motor Racing Podcast. It's your host Kevin, my co-host Don. Hey buddy, how you doing?
Hey, happy Friday, man. We might have a bit of a weekend on us if I'm looking at the schedule correctly. I think there's a couple big races on maybe.
Oh yeah. Where do we even start? So besides Truck at Xfinity, we'll get that here in a minute. We have a crown jewel race. We have the Coca-Cola 600, the longest race of the season. We have the Grand Prix or Monaco Grand Prix, and then we have the Indy 500. A lot of action and a lot of those intertwining. We got NASCAR driver Kyle Larson over running the Indy 500 if the weather does allow.
I was gonna say if.
If the weather allows, Kyle Larson will do the double, the Indy 500 and the Coca Cola 600. Um, I guess we'll start off with that, man. We've had about 2 weeks worth of hype for the Indy 500, and now we're down to this is Friday night, so we've got about 48 hours, if not less than that, before we kick off Indy.
Right, I'm looking at 43 hours is what it looks like, is what the counter's on.
43 hours.
Right.
Okay, so yeah,
Just under 2 days, and that's gonna be crazy. You got all your big names, your McLaughlin, you got Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, the Rossi, Kyle Larson, of course. Uh, uh, VK, Pato Award. I mean, the list goes on and on. These guys are. I'm excited, man. I can't wait for Indy. It's a completely different style of racing, a completely different strategy altogether, and then we get to flip the channel right over to our Coke 600.
man, I know it's gonna be insane. We haven't seen an Indy double since Kurt Busch. Um, I
That
don't know
was
if there's
2011.
yes.
Okay.
I was actually just watching something on the Tony Stewart Indy double. We'll get to that here in a second, but we're gonna watch Kyle Larson start the Indy 500. He starts fifth. Run that 500 miles, grueling 500 miles because granted he's put all these laps in with practice, but this is a different kind of race car. The way that it drives is different. It's open wheel compared to closed wheel in NASCAR. So that challenge posed to Kyle Larson makes it's just going to make his day harder.
Right.
Um, I know doing 500 and then coming back and oh shit, scared damn it, dog. Um, and doing the 600, 1,100 miles in two different driving styles. Now I know Kyle Larson showed us that he could hop from the Indy car straight into the stock car and run just as well. But 500 miles, I mean, all back to back, not getting in the car, doing a couple miles here, getting out of the car. I mean, straight 500, and
Right.
then going straight into a stock car for 600 miles.
Right.
Does the man have the endurance? Do you think he finishes the 600?
Listen, with Kyle, it's going to be an interesting story to follow because and people don't take a lot of this into consideration, which is Kyle's size. He is not a large man at all. I've stood next to him at 6'3", 200 pounds, and I think he's all of 5'7", maybe a buck 50, maybe 150. I mean, he is a little guy. We saw Tony Stewart, and I'll let you elaborate on what you brought up with Tony, but we saw Tony Stewart actually complete all 1,100 miles, and he had to be basically
Hospitalized.
yeah, he was basically taken to the hospital because he couldn't even stand on his own 2 feet. His body had it didn't fail him, but it had given out in a way where he couldn't even walk to his hauler. So they put him right on a stretcher, put him in the ambulance, and then I'm sure they pumped him full of fluids and got him right again. Now the reason I bring that up is because Tony Stewart is quite literally, I would say, almost twice the mass that Kyle Larson is. So he has a bigger body to kind of endure a lot more of the harsh conditions throughout 1,100 miles of racing, and he still had to be put on a stretcher after the race. I don't know Kyle's endurance that well. I don't know the longest he's actually been in a race car consecutively as far as miles go or hours. Um, he obviously he's known about this for over a year. He's very clearly going to be well in shape already as it is being a cup driver. He's probably gotten a ton of advice from other racers in Indy on how to condition and how to prepare and that. And he's probably reached out to Tony and some of those other guys, your Juan Pablos and Robbie Gordons, on what they did to prepare. Because why not? Why wouldn't you reach out to somebody with experience already? So it'll be really interesting to see if Kyle has the endurance to keep up with that kind of grueling task, because it's no joke, guys. Like these things, you're not driving to work, your 30-mile drive to work in a comfy seat and air conditioning. Like it's 130 degrees inside the car, and it's G forces, and it's beating and banging. It's different, man. So it'll be. I'm gonna be following it closely, as are millions of people going to be following this closely just to see how he does.
I mean, and everybody's talking about the possibility of him winning both the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600.
Right.
What would that do for his career? Because he would ultimately be the first.
He would be the first, and he might be the last. I don't know how somebody does this again. Now we are seeing more and more talent come up through the ranks as time goes on, but not like this. Not like and Tony Stewart, man, Tony was a different animal. I mean, just completely. And now he's doing drag racing like it's nothing. He is so good at it. He's so gifted. Um, as far as what it'll do for Kyle Larson's career, I don't know if you can compliment or boast his career any more than everybody already has and what he's accomplished in all the different facets of racing. Um, all it's going to do is just add the what is the term these days? Not glaze. That's not the right, but it'll basically be the icing on what's already been a phenomenal career.
Man, but if it doesn't take his career any higher, it definitely makes him a lot more money.
Absolutely. The sponsors it'll bring through. My goodness.
Hendrick may not have to sponsor his own car for much longer.
No joke,
Um,
man.
I mean, if he pulls off the double win, you got to think the hat merch, the t-shirts, the posters, the die casts, the whole nine. There's millions of dollars in general merchandise.
We might, for the first time in a long time, see a driver have a second hauler of out at the racetrack, because the last few years I've been going to the races, every driver, the most popular ones, your Chase Elliott's, your Rosses, they have a hauler to themselves. But from what I've heard in stories in the past, in the 90s, Jeff Gordon had like 5 haulers full of merchandise they were selling on race weekend. Dale Earnhardt, 5 haulers in his own little section. Like, that's insanity. And of course, we're talking about 200,000 people on any given weekend. So, of course, the merch sales are going to be up. But we haven't seen any driver with that kind of capabilities. And Kyle might actually need his own, not only his own hauler, but a second one if he starts rattling off Indy wins like this.
See, and I know he's already selling merch like nuts, because
Right.
I'm sure you saw it at Coda and Texas.
Yep.
When I went to Bristol, I was at the RCR trailer getting Kyle Busch merch. Well, the line that I thought was the line for the RCR trailer happened to be for the Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott trailer that were 3 trailers down.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit. And I looked down, and most of them, you can tell the different blues between Kyle Larson blue and Chase Elliott blue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think 95% of that was for the Kyle Larson hauler.
Is it too far fetched to assume he's probably going to take most popular driver of the year this year?
I wouldn't put it too far fetched, honestly. I think he would give Chase Elliott a run for his money this year. If somebody besides Chase Elliott, go ahead.
Why is Chase? And I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have nothing against Chase Elliott. I'm just curious as to the whole most popular. most popular driver award each season, and I don't get it. I don't get it with Chase. Like I get he's a great driver. He's with the right team to get that kind of attention, but his personality doesn't scream most popular driver. He is so laid back. He's so quiet. I think really the only huge thing we've seen him get tied up in was that Kevin Harvick and Kyle Larson thing a few years ago at Bristol. So
Well, I mean, you had the 2020, you had the Kyle Busch Chase Elliott incident there at Darlington.
right. And you had the Kevin Harvick situation too, but they're still pretty minor comparatively speaking to what you get out of a lot of drivers. And again, it's not a knock on Chase Elliott. I love watching him race. Seems like a really nice guy. I've come across him a couple times at the racetrack. I just don't get it, and that's just my own opinion, and that's what it is. I can see somebody like Kyle Larson actually taking that award and it actually making a little bit more sense.
Oh, well, I mean, as much as he's doing, and I'll bring up the comment just to be funny. A lot of people saying that 90% of Kyle Larson's fans that he's got now hopped on after he signed with Hendrick. We go back to talking about before COVID, who the hell was Kyle Larson?
Yeah, but so what? Like everybody's got to become a fan at some point. Like I jumped on the Tyler Reddick train when he was with RCR. I was like, oh shit, this kid. Of course he won his Xfinity championship. We all know that. But man, when he got to Cup and he was starting to, I was just like, all right, I'm jumping on this train. And then he just happened to jump to my favorite team, 23XI, with my other favorite driver, Bubba Wallace. And I was just like, well, this worked out perfectly. So I had to become a fan at some point. So as far as Kyle Larson only gaining fans during COVID, I think that's silly. I think who cares? Who cares when people became a fan? He's putting butts in seats and it's raising ratings. So
I mean, because if you go to the racetrack, if everybody were given a section, or we have our popular drivers, let me just say that, given a section of the racetrack, if you take a place like Daytona where the length of seating, I guarantee that they would have to have at least a little under half of Daytona the way that they seat for just Kyle Larson fans.
That's insane, man. That is absolutely incredible.
For most of the races that I go to, that when I look around anymore, that's all I see is Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott.
Yep.
And I mean, it's almost like it's becoming a Hendrick Motorsport, if you would.
Right.
Because those two drivers have completely taken over the sport.
Right.
And
of course, you got your Denny Hamlins, and you got your Bubba Wallaces, and you got these other, Ross Chastains. I can list another 20, but not like Kyle and Chase. Well, I the way he's eclipsed Chase is just crazy. Like, because my first race, Chase Elliott actually won at COTA in 2021, and half of that crowd was Chase fans. So it's in such a short amount of time, the way it's flipped, the way it has, it's really incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it is, because you see how long, and this is no shot at Chase Elliott whatsoever. But Larson's been in a Hendrick ride for going on, 3 years now?
Right.
He's won a Cup championship. And I don't know the number of races, but he's
at 25 now.
Is it 25 wins with Hendrick?
Total.
Oh, total? Okay.
So he's probably 20 or 22, I guess, with Hendrick.
The fact that he's only been there 3 years and Chase Elliott's been there since 2016?
Yeah.
So this is going on year 8.
Right.
The fact that Kyle Larson is able to surpass NASCAR's most popular driver and supposedly the best driver there at the stable for Hendrick Motorsports there for a while. But I think we can easily say that like I said, no shot at Chase, but Kyle Larson is definitely has got more talent, more driving capability than Chase Elliott.
Absolutely. And I don't know a lot of people that would disagree with that. Now, I get some people would disagree with it because they feel Chase Elliott's the best in the world. Free to think that, but it's not reality. Kyle Larson is.
Now, don't get me wrong, Chase Elliott has got his own list of driving capabilities and
Absolutely.
whatnot.
He was just in an ASA late model race. I mean,
Yeah. He's, for the longest time he was king of the road course.
right.
You can't comparing Chase Elliott to Kyle Larson is like comparing apples to oranges.
Right.
Yes, they're in the same stable now, and that's, they compete against each other week in, week out, and that's how we compare. But for now, Kyle Larson it stands, if you would, the king of NASCAR at this point.
Right. I can't not argue that.
The Coke 600, the meaning behind the Coke 600, or what NASCAR tries to do for the families of those that we're trying to remember on Memorial Day. I don't know any other sport that goes to the extent that NASCAR does. And that it makes me proud to be a fan of a sport that tells our heroes, thank you. We're not doing this without you. And I don't see, we might have the NFL have a commercial here and there, thanks to our heroes, blah, blah, blah. But I don't feel like the NFL or anybody else goes to the extent that NASCAR does.
And it's interesting because you think a lot more American sports, maybe baseball does a little bit more. I'm not too familiar with the MLB. I know football there for a while was doing the salute to service, where the month of November, because I believe that's when, forgive me for not knowing the exact. It's not, is it Veterans? Is it Veterans Day in November?
I think so.
So they do the salute to service where they wear the camo gear and the camo jerseys and stuff like that. I know they put that kind of stuff together. But as far as NASCAR and the lengths they go in supporting the troops and honoring the families that have lost loved ones over the years, there's no match. There's nothing close. You get I'm not even sure how they go about choosing who goes on whose car. That's got to be some sort of way deep, NASCAR board member type stuff that we'll never even have the slightest idea, unless they just happen to be a fan and they reached out to NASCAR and was like, hey, will you put our family's name on the car? I just don't know. I don't know how it works.
See, and I'm not sure how that would work either. I know that they might have picked a name from a random, like the Wounded Memorial or the Wounded Soldiers Project.
Wounded Warrior Project.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe get a list from them, and because I know the drivers, the race teams actually contact the families to let them know, say, hey, so and so is going to be on our race car this so and so weekend.
Right.
I know that's what they did with Kyle Busch's when he won the Coke 600 in 2018.
Okay. But as far as putting and I'll actually put it on camera since I've got one. It's Tyler Reddick's Charlotte from last year, and they have Sergeant Castle on the window.
Oh yeah, I was there in person to see that car.
So right there for our viewers that are looking, it's right there across the banner. Instead of having Tyler Reddick's name like they have on the side there and across the front, they've actually got Sergeant Castle. And so they honor every single race car will have a fallen soldier's name on it. I think that's just a beautiful tribute that they do. It's a beautiful tribute that they do, and I hope it never stops. And I love everything about this weekend. All of the memorials and all the paid tributes and respect, like that's big time. And not a lot of companies do it, and NASCAR does.
Now to say this is the longest race that we see of the season. Man versus machine, endurance. And I feel like endurance, especially where and when this race takes place, as hot as it is. And I will attest to it being hot. The last Coke 600 that I went to, besides last year's, was 2019. Me and my dad were sitting in the infield where it says Coca-Cola 600 in the infield. And the track temp was 135 degrees.
Yep.
And I remember looking at my phone at one point and looking at the camera, and I think it was Kurt Busch's car, and it was like 147 degrees inside the race car.
Inside the race car, and that's not even inside Kurt's race suit. Like, that's inside the race car.
So and 2019, this is before the cooling suits.
Right. Nobody had the cooling suits and the ventilation. Everybody says it's garbage anyway. So, I mean, these guys are no joke, man. That kind of stress on the body is so much to take for 4 hours, and then you're talking about 4.5 hours with the 600. So, you know, it's a true testament to what these guys are actually capable of doing, and for how long they can do it at a time.
I mean, it's got to play into the mental game, because, you know, you go back and listen to Radioactive for some of these races, and a lot of these crew chiefs are telling the drivers, you know, you got to calm down, just stick in with it, do what you can. It's a long race. We're going to be here a long while.
Right.
You know, and if you end up with a shit race car, that makes that race 10 times harder on you. You know, especially if that car. Yeah, especially if that race car is super loose, you're doing this all night long.
Yep.
And that has got to wear this arm out. It's got, I mean, both arms, upper body. I know my ankle would hurt like shit doing throttle control all night long.
Yep.
And then Kyle Larson to do the double, to have to do it for 1,100 miles.
Now, the good thing with Indy, now I know they're going through a lot of G-forces in the actual 90-degree turns that they deal with, but they've got the long straightaways where you can actually kind of take that back. I know I'm not taking anything away from what these guys do.
Oh, yeah.
Are on the long straightaway, it seems like they can kind of relax for just a moment, kind of let your shoulders down, let everything off of your muscles, and then get back on it as soon as you get up to the turn again.
Yeah, because it seems like when these guys get in here, you could see it even through their gloves. They are white knuckling.
Yeah.
These steering wheels, and it's insane, because you're like, that doesn't look that hard. But you look at these speeds between 234 and 241 miles an hour. If I'm not white knuckling that steering wheel, you know that everybody, they do that every time they step in the race car, though, especially with IndyCar, and we have seen it multiple times. That could be the very last time they step foot inside the race car.
Right.
But if you're, and I'm sure NASCAR drivers will tell you this, if you're not scared when you get behind that wheel, it's really not racing.
Right. Yeah, there's a certain level of fear that comes with it, but that's what makes some of these guys so good, is they harness that fear into kicking the
They harness their inner Ricky Bobby.
Right.
Gotta learn to drive with the fear.
That's right.
Man, so we'll jump into trucks.
Tanner Gray on the pole.
Man, I'll tell you, holy crap. As loose as these trucks were, I mean, you can look and tell, and they were zooming in on the sides of the cars, and you could just tell just how loose they really were, and you could see how slick that racetrack. I mean, the ARCA race, I've got it on right now, and these guys are slipping and sliding everywhere. Speaking of Tanner Gray, he's in the lead. No surprise there.
Did that race already start? Man, I am so off today.
Yeah, 6 o'clock. Or well, it started 5 o'clock your time. But you know, Tanner Gray doing that, and then you had Christian Eckes, who was out of practice early. You had Caden Honeycutt, who got loose on the bottom and ended up into the side, or caught his truck in the side of Christian Eckes, and ultimately they took the wraps and all that stuff off the side of Christian Eckes' truck. Like they went down to bare metal so they could start fixing so the team's going to have a lot to do, and I'm sure they're not going to be done until, well, no, because the truck race is tonight.
Right. Who's racing right now?
ARCA.
Okay. I was like, man, if they're not done already, they're running.
That's why I'm not okay. I kept forgetting today's Friday.
Friday. So
I'm used to ARCA racing on Thursday nights.
Right. So they're racing with the trucks, and then trucks race after. That's why I was like, the trucks are on already? Crap.
No, ARCA. But no, yeah, if they don't get that done, it was ultimately going to be a backup truck. Like the whole left side of that truck was caved in and flattened. There was no aerodynamic to it anymore.
Which I'm surprised they didn't just go to the backup truck. I mean, that seems like a lot of extra work. Sorry about that. That seems like a lot of extra work to put on your crew. I don't know. I mean, I guess they made a judgment call and they're running with it. So more power to them.
Christian Eckes and the crew chief said that it looked like it was just a bunch of sheet metal body damage. There wasn't nothing. Yeah, it was just all cosmetic. So they said they were gonna try and work on that, get everything shaped back out, and do all that and get it rewrapped. So,
right on. I hope they do.
If they do, the lap time, Christian Eckes was like third or fourth fastest in practice.
Right.
And then Raja Caruth, if it wouldn't have been for the slip he had there in 3 and 4 on his lap time, he would have been sitting on the pole, and Tanner Gray would have been sitting right next to him.
Right.
I'm excited for it because these guys are slipping and sliding. Granted, this track's still going to have a little heat, but the sun's going down. We're truck racing under the lights.
And what's more exciting than the trucks at night? I mean, I watched them at Texas Motor Speedway back in April, and they put on a show, man. Like, these guys can wheel it up with the best of them. They get after it. They beat, they bang, they push each other to the finish. I'm excited. And Charlotte being the sister track to Texas Motor Speedway and Atlanta, it's going to be the same style. Let's watch. Oh man, I'm so excited. I love this weekend.
Which brings us, so who's your prediction for since we're on the truck series, who's your prediction for this weekend?
Oh man, trucks. Look, Jesse Love is he's been quiet the last few weeks. Oh wait, Jesse's in Xfinity. Nick Sanchez is what I meant to say.
I knew who you were talking about.
Nick Sanchez for trucks, man. This guy, and if y'all aren't paying attention to Nick Sanchez, man, just look him up. Look some of his stuff up on YouTube, because what and so young, an insane amount of talent. And so give me Nick. I look for him to do great things the rest of his career. On top of this season, watch out for him chasing that championship, man. He might sneak in there and get it. So for trucks, I'm going to go with Nick in that 2 truck.
From what I saw in practice, I think I'm going to have to go, practice and qualifying. I think I'm going to have to go with the 91 of Jack Wood.
Okay.
He had a lot of speed. He was really loose in the beginning of practice. But this kid, man, he showed a lot of discipline. There's at one point that truck should have snapped around and backed into the wall.
Right.
And it should have been 110%, no doubt, backed into the wall. And this kid, just the discipline he shows behind the wheel, and then the speed that they brought. I know that, you're going to have Tanner Gray to deal with, and we always know Tanner Gray is really fast around this place. Tricon Garage as a whole is always fast around this place.
Absolutely.
Ben Rhodes qualified 6th. Ty Majeski was in the top 10 somewhere. So those 2 organizations, but Jack Wood he just poses a whole new level of threat, I guess, per se, in the race, because you're going to have Tricon and you're going to have Thorsport up there battling each other, and Jack Wood is back here with, I can't remember what race team he's with.
Yeah, don't
But
ask
he's
me.
back there with the single race team, and he's just going to be in a okay. Well, I don't care. I'm going to go through each and every one of you.
Yep.
And that's the attitude that they interviewed him, and that's the attitude he's got. So, I mean, I'm feeling pretty confident Jack Wood's going to get his first truck win tonight.
Good deal. And I know Jordan wasn't able to join us this evening, but I've got Jordan's truck pick right here. He told us that he is going to go with Ben Rhodes. I think that's no real shock, as Jordan likes to pick Ben Rhodes with us. So,
but it's not far fetched though either,
no, not
is
at
it? Though,
all.
considering that this is one of Ben Rhodes' best racetracks, and he won this race a year ago.
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely, cannot argue the pick at all. So we got trucks at 6 p.m. or I'm sorry, 7 Eastern. Is that correct? 6 my time in
No, I think
Texas?
it's 8 o'clock.
Oh, we're going late. Okay.
8:30. Hold on, I actually got the schedule right here. Oh, don't scream at me. Oh, truck race day starts at 8 o'clock. Truck race goes green at 8:30.
Right on. Okay. And then I think we said Matt DiBenedetto qualified 4th earlier. This list, and this is off of NASCAR's page, but it's showing Jesse Love 4th and it's showing Matt DiBenedetto 14th.
Was there something?
Maybe I've got some technical stuff going on and it hasn't.
Hold on, let me. News. Xfinity. Qualifying results. That might have been what I was looking at, and I just missed the one.
Okay, right on. You got my hopes up.
I'm sorry. Either way, 14th is not bad for a new team.
He's no slouch, man. Matty DiBenedetto knows how to race, man. There's a reason he keeps getting rides.
And I mean, no surprise, you got 2 Cup regulars on the front row. Ty Gibbs and Kyle Busch.
Yep, there's no surprise whatsoever.
And the 2 guys that we said have been quiet, Chandler Smith and Jesse Love, sitting right there behind them.
Yep. Still trying to find Ryan Wood, Jack Wood, American Professional Stock Car Racing Driver. I'm still trying to find his team, man. Racing driver, professional. You know, we're just gonna have to get back to that. I cannot find that anywhere. That's crazy. Back to the starting lineup. You mentioned Ty Gibbs and Kyle Busch, but I mean, you got other Cup guys that had full-time Cup rides. You got Cole Custer starting in 6th. You got AJ Allmendinger starting 11th. Like, that's 4 right there. You got Matt DiBenedetto right there in 14th. That's 5 in the top 14. So these guys are going to have a lot of work to work around if they're going to make their way to the front. And these Cup guys are not just going to give it to them. They're out there for a paycheck. They're out there for a trophy.
I mean, there's a lot of people that get pissed because these Cup guys are down here racing with the Xfinity guys.
Yeah, we've discussed it before. It's like, I don't know why y'all would be pissed. This is free lessons they're getting in the Xfinity series. You are getting all sorts of experience racing with these guys. What are you complaining about? You know?
And we've heard time and time again from truck guys and Xfinity guys, they like racing against the likes of Kyle Busch because what was the stat? There was 11 Xfinity wins throughout the whole field, and 9 of those belonged to Kyle Busch.
Right.
Chase Elliott, granted, he beat Kyle Busch here in the truck race or with the Bounty race back in 2020. Mm-hmm. But normally when you get a Cup regular down here, these guys want to race against these guys. It's where they get their experience, what they can expect from the guys on the next level. Yep. They race against these guys because they know how to set up a car. They know how to win. And if they race against them, you know, they learn so much.
Right. It's free information. Why wouldn't you want to race against them? you know?
It's and it's just the guys that I'm guessing, the one they bitch about the most is Kyle Busch.
Right.
And I want to say that's just because when Kyle's down there, he's just that good.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a them problem. It doesn't sound like a racing problem. It doesn't sound like a Kyle Busch problem. It sounds like a
A
fan
hater
problem.
problem.
Right. So I got $100 that says they're gonna get over it. Do they want my PayPal or my Venmo? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what else to say about it.
I mean, it's just those things that, like, you see something good or something exciting on Facebook or X or whatever social media you're looking at. And it's like that when they announce Kyle Busch is going to run the Rebel Bourbon number 33 in the Xfinity Series. And the first comment I see underneath that, when Kyle Busch can fuck off, he don't need to be running down there in the Xfinity Series.
So it's not even constructive criticism that we're
No.
getting out of these people. You're getting straight ignorance. And that's the kind of stuff that, and I'm sure you've seen it, where I just leave a clown face and I move on. Like, because that's all it is. You sound like a clown, man. Like, what? Like, F Kyle Busch? What? Because you're not out there racing? I don't understand. Like, what is the actual issue we're talking about here? Because I sure as heck believe that all those boys out there love racing against Kyle Busch, just like you're talking about.
And Kyle mentors a lot of these guys.
Yep.
So why wouldn't they want to race against our mentor? Because if he's giving them information off the racetrack, imagine what they could get by racing with him.
Yeah,
Watching somebody lead or pass you or do something better than what you're doing.
They're tricks.
Yeah, tricks of the trade that could definitely make you a better driver, whether it's, by 2 times or makes, who knows, watching one of these guys run a racetrack that you have absolute bad luck at and you guys just can't figure anything out. Watching these guys, he could pass you once and you could see just how he entered the corner or exited the corner or rolled the middle.
Right.
And all of a sudden, boom, it clicks for you and you're rattling off wins at that racetrack that you had problems with year after year after year.
Because you were getting free lessons because you were racing against the best.
So, and racing against the best, you learn their tricks. Then you can use that out on the racetrack and figure out how to use that against other people.
Right.
And so when you go back to race against these Cup guys, then that's when the good racing starts and you're able to go up there and compete and not let the Cup guys go out and win every single truck or every single Xfinity race, because that's not how it happens. Kyle was only 2 for his 5 this year. When was the last time that was heard of?
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. And maybe that has a little bit more to do with Kyle being on the back end of his career. And he was a lot more efficient with his races, before. But Kyle still has the ability to go to a weekend and sweep the entire thing and not even blink.
So with Xfinity, this race is going to be run in the middle of the day. It's going to be hot and slick.
Yep.
I expect Hailie Deegan, excuse me, to finish in the top 10.
Okay.
Hailie qualified. She had a really good run. That race car was really, really loose, though, so I know they have some adjustments. I'm not saying this just to make Jordan happy. But watching qualifying and watching practice, she was figuring something out. She was running some good lap times. I don't think they qualified where they wanted to. Looking at her lap times and then her qualifying time, it was night and day.
Right.
So hopefully she gets back out there, makes a couple adjustments, hopefully gets a top 10, because I feel like if she stays out of trouble this weekend, she's got a car capable of at least a top 12.
Yeah, absolutely. And she is talented enough to put that car in position to have a top 10 finish. The woman is a talented race car driver. She might need a little bit more chips to fall her way in order to complete these top 10s. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of drivers have had a lot of luck and finished well. So
and we know she can do it, because the one Xfinity race that she got last year, she did absolutely amazing in there at Vegas.
Right.
So
I think she had the top 15, right?
Top 12, or well,
top 12,
or was it? I think she finished 14th.
Okay.
I'm sure Jordan will know that. We'll text him. Um, I wouldn't honestly. I would not put it past to say that it won't be a Cup driver winning the Xfinity race tomorrow.
I can't disagree with that. As talented as these Cup guys are, Allmendinger might surprise us. Might. I'll throw his name in there just because you just never know with AJ, right? He shows up and he snags these wins sometimes, and it's like, where the hell did he even come from?
He's a sleeper.
The sleepers, thank you. He is a definite sleeper when it comes to some of these races.
Mm-hmm.
Look for Austin Hill. He's been a little bit more quiet here the last few weeks, especially after that ridiculous start he got off to.
Well, and then I also say, look out. Starting fifth tomorrow is Jed Burton.
Jeb Burton in that 27 car, absolutely.
And
was
he
running
is he always runs really good here at Charlotte.
right. You got what is it? Reslav, Sam
Parker
Mayer,
Retzlaff.
right? Sam Mayer there in 13th. Sammy Smith, man, we haven't talked about Sammy Smith much this season. I know he's still learning. He's in his second full-time year. He also switched over to Junior Motorsports from Joe Gibbs. So that, that transition isn't something that's always seamless with a lot of drivers. Your Brandon Pools, your Ryan Sieg. Look for Ryan Sieg, man. He was 0.002 seconds from his first win at the sister track at Texas back in April. Charlotte is no different. Well, let me rephrase. Charlotte has its own characteristics that makes it a different racetrack, but they're the same shape racetrack and being a 1.5 mile dog legs.
Well, and it always seems like Ryan runs really well at Charlotte too.
Right.
Like he's got something figured out. He's always got speed. He was really fast. I watched the Xfinity race last year. He was really fast.
Yep.
I don't know what it's going to take for Ryan to get that first win.
It's going to take a little bit more luck.
I feel like they're doing everything right. The pit guys are trying as hard as they can.
The skill is there.
Yeah, the skill, the speed, they could be a little faster, and we know they could be a little faster because we've seen the skill that they have. If they clean it up just a little bit, Ryan Sieg, what I would definitely not leave him out to say that he will have a playoff berth. I'm not going to go to say as much to say as he'll be in the championship 4 just yet, but I would say he would make it at least to the round of 12.
Now, is that assuming that the NASCAR Truck Series doesn't fill all 12 available playoff spots with a win and you're in type scenario? Like there's going to be a couple spots available for drivers that haven't won to get in?
Yeah, I don't feel like we're going to have that many different winners in the Xfinity Series.
I'm sorry, I thought we were Xfinity.
Yeah, I don't feel. Lost my train of thought.
Ryan Sieg and getting into the playoffs.
Oh, there. Ryan, I wouldn't be surprised if he rattled off 2 or 3 wins. And with the playoff berth, I would not be surprised if he earned his way in with a win.
Okay.
But if he didn't, I'm not going to be surprised that he's in the playoffs as far as points, because just as well as they've been running. Now, I know they got to figure this short track thing out because Martinsville wasn't very good to them.
Right.
And Bristol really wasn't good to them either. Or not Bristol. Richmond. He had a good run going there at Richmond and then getting into trouble, and it's just something's got to give with that short track package. But Ryan Sieg, I feel like he'll be the first Ford in the Xfinity Series. I'll make a bold assumption. Okay. He'll be the first Ford in the Xfinity Series to get a win for the Blue Ovals.
All right, that's an interesting. That was an interesting route you took with it, but I like it. If I had to go with the first Ford, it's hard to argue Riley Herbst in that 98. I would think that the Stewart-Haas program for the Xfinity Series is obviously a defending champion right now, and they've got 2 incredibly gifted drivers in their stables. So Riley Herbst, I would have to make my pick for the first Ford win. Um, as far as your prediction for Charlotte winner, you said it's not going to be a Cup guy, and we didn't even get to the rest of the Cup guys. Chase Elliott is in the number 17. He's starting 30th.
Noah
Um,
Gregson is in the 30, starting
correct.
18th.
Yeah. So, and you've got a number of other guys that have ran a couple Cup races. Jeremy Clements had a Cup ride there for a little bit. With was it Rick Ware Racing, if I remember correctly?
Yes.
So there's a lot of experience in this race. I'm not surprised at all that a bunch of them are doing that. A bunch of the Cup guys are doing the Charlotte race. It's such a fun racetrack that they love racing, and they get seat and lap time for the next day. So
My pick to win the Xfinity race tomorrow. I'm not going to say it's going to be bold, but I'm going to say Parker Kligerman.
okay,
With the speed that they've shown at the mile and a half. And like I said, Parker is just look. They finished 6th their last race.
right.
They had speed at the mile and a half. We saw that at Darlington. We saw that at Kansas. He has to start from the back, or well, not from the back, but 28th, pretty
Yeah,
much.
he's in 28th on my list.
So he's got some work to do, but the work he's got to do, that just allows him to learn a lot about his car. And so the teams can make the right adjustments at the right time. And I feel like Parker Kligerman will be there at the end to take the win at Charlotte this weekend.
Right on. All right, I'm gonna give you one shot at my guess because this is an interesting one, and I'll help you out. He's starting in the top. He's starting in the top 10. We got Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, Chandler Smith, Jesse Love, Jeb Burton, Cole Custer, Sheldon Creed, Austin Hill, Justin Allgaier, and Brandon Jones.
Who's your pick? Oh shit. It's gonna be interesting, but I'm gonna tell you your pick, Sheldon Creed.
Sheldon Creed, my friend, that is my pick for tomorrow's Xfinity race that's going to be on at noon. Sheldon Creed is going to win. I'm so glad you got that right. He's in that number 18 Toyota. Joe Gibbs Racing. He's gonna win. I'm calling it, dude. He is supposed to have won like 10 races already. Let's just call it what it is. The guy is fast. The guy is awesome. He's passionate. He's still got that drive and that hunger. Check out that 18 in Victory Lane tomorrow.
We haven't got any Cup on track action just yet. We don't get that until 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow, right?
So we don't know who's going where. We had a Ford win last year's. Blaney, unbelievable speed, man.
And that badass body armor car.
Like I was sitting right there on the exit of the tri-oval for the Coke 600 last year.
Awesome.
We held out the race. It sucked. As far as the weather goes, the race was really good. But it seemed like when the sun goes down, and it seemed like the last couple of Coke 600s, that when the sun goes down, it's a mix between the Fords and the Toyotas. Like the Chevrolets have no idea why or where the track is going and why their car is just not doing what they want it to do.
And it just is a testament to how much the team aspect it actually goes into effect as much as the manufacturer aspect. Why does Chevrolet fall off so much during these events, and why does Ford and Toyota get so strong? Right, it's a really interesting little deal there, and it's almost like the Chevys across the board are doing the same exact thing, and it's biting them in the butt every time.
I mean, we've seen RCR have a lot of speed on the mile and a halves.
Right.
We've seen Stuart Haas have a lot of speed on the mile and a halves. Noah Gragson, man, watch out for Noah Gragson.
Noah.
He's won here at Charlotte, which would not surprise me if he had a decent run. I don't know what this team has brought to the racetrack because I don't know what team he's racing for. Man, and it brings up, because I don't want to bring it up, but I want to bring it up, the selling, or the charters that are up for sale. Like Stuart Haas looking at actually selling all 4 of their charters.
Right. And I definitely thought it was strange that it was rumored originally that they were just doing 2. I thought it was a very random choice when your team is already kind of not showing up as it is. I thought that was weird and random. Why wouldn't they want to just clean house and give it all up? So it makes sense now that we're hearing that it's a possibility that they're probably going to sell all 4 charters and just focus on their Xfinity program.
Well, and that opens up a can of worms, because we know that Trackhouse has talked about a 3rd full-time charter. We
Right.
know that 23XI has looked at being adding another charter. I mean, would it be as bold as Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin saying, "Oh, well, we told you we were looking at 1. We're going ahead and starting a 4-car team"?
It would not surprise me at all. Michael Jordan, listen, I know I'm a homer in this aspect, but facts are facts. Michael Jordan is all in on this NASCAR race team experience. Today is May 24th, 2024. Their Airspeed racing facility just opened yesterday, their grand opening. All the pictures have been flying all over social media. That facility is awesome. Denny and Michael did not build that state-of-the-art $16 million facility to just run 2 cars and hope for the best. No, they're going in, they're all in, and they're doing it now. They're not messing around.
So who do we see? I mean,
Corey Heim.
that they would be stupid not to, right?
Right. Correct.
Well, I'm not going to say stupid, but I'll say it would be ignorant not to grab up Corey Heim.
Right.
Because as a Toyota development driver,
and you don't want to go against him. I'm telling y'all, you do not want to go against this guy when he gets in top equipment.
No.
And I would consider teams like Trackhouse and 23XI top equipment now. They put fast race cars out every single weekend.
Oh, for sure.
As far as Daniel Suarez has some questionable finishes, I don't know that his driver talent is as high as the other 3 guys that we're speaking of, as that being Ross, Tyler, and Bubba. But that being said, he has a win. So
I would have to say I wouldn't necessarily be upset to see Noah Gragson back in a Toyota.
Right, and that would be interesting.
Because we saw him have a lot of good. Now, he didn't win a Truck Series championship, but he ran really well with Toyota and Kyle Busch Motorsports.
Right.
We've seen that he can drive. Well, at this point, it doesn't matter what he's behind the wheel of, whether it's Ford, Chevrolet, or Toyota, he can drive it.
Right.
Trackhouse, man, if they start a 3rd or even a 4-team charter, who do we add? They'd be kind of dumb. I mean, would Kyle Busch, would it be far-fetched to say that maybe Pitbull and those guys over there would say, hey, let's bring Kyle Busch over here?
Kind of finish up his career in a Chevy, kind of give him a clean slate, kind of forget all the nonsense that has taken place, and, hey, finish out your career on a high note and help guide and bring up our team at the same time. Kind of what Kurt Busch is doing for 23XI.
Yeah. I mean, and who knows? And I'm a Kyle Busch fan through and through, and this is not a shot at RCR or anybody that has anything to do with that 8 team or RCR as a whole. But something like what we were talking about earlier, something's got to give with this 8 team.
Right.
Really excited. We rattled off 3 wins last year. Which with first year I wasn't expecting much at all.
Right, and I think he won the 2nd race of the year. Is that do I remember that correctly?
Yeah.
And so people were getting out of their race cars and interviewing drivers, and they were like, what is it? How does it feel that Kyle's already winning at RCR? And I think it was Chase Elliott, and don't quote me on this, but something along the lines of, "Are y'all surprised Kyle Busch is winning? Like, I don't understand. Like, this is Kyle Busch. This is what he does. He goes out and wins races."
Would it? something has got to give with that 18.
Right.
Like I said, coming in, not very high expectations, but we had for a first time being with Chevrolet and another team, we had a phenomenal season. Now I wouldn't say it was a great season because we didn't end up with a championship.
No, it was a very frustrating playoffs, and I remember seeing the look on Kyle Busch's face after the Texas race when he got out of the car, and I've never seen him look so defeated in his entire career. He was so fed up with everything that had taken place on top of wrecking another race car. Um, I think that might have been the moment he everything kind of flipped for this team. Like it's almost like a mental thing that they just can't shake ever since that race.
I don't know what it's going to take. If it's going to take for them just rolling off and being the quickest out of the garage, or something positive has got to happen for this 18. And maybe, who knows, that positivity might come. And it's not my prediction, but it might come at the hands of Kyle Busch.
Right.
If he gets that win in the Xfinity Series tomorrow, that you give that man, you don't give that man confidence when he's already backed into a corner.
Right.
Um,
What he can do when he's backed into a corner.
they talked about him, the last time they were talking about him like this was 2018, when they kept bringing up the fact, Kyle's never been able to win at Charlotte. Why can't you win here? Why can't you win here? We roll right up off the truck, fastest in practice, win the pole, lead every lap, but I think we led 347 out of 400 laps, and took his first win at Charlotte and at the Coca-Cola 600.
Yep.
I mean,
it's almost like somebody needs to actually come out and say, maybe you need to send him a little tweet on X. Hey, when are you gonna win again, bro? Just to see if that little nudge kind of you never know.
hey, well,
He'll probably recognize your tag name and know who it's coming from, so he won't take it personal either.
God, I hope not. Because my chances of sitting on the pit box go right out the fucking window.
Right. Now, you know what? Kyle's going to be fine. Let's get that out of the way. Kyle Busch is going to be fine. He'll get something figured out. He always has. Whether it be a team, whether he actually switches teams after the season, I don't know what the likelihood of that is being, or if he's going to stick it out with RCR for the remainder of his career. So it's hard to speculate on even which team he would go to. Manufacturer set aside completely. Kyle Busch will be fine. Kyle Busch is a two-time champion. The man knows how to win races. He has taken some of the shittiest situations, excuse my language, he has taken some of the crappiest race cars and taken them to victory lane. I think it was Pocono a few years ago. He lost half his gearbox.
He got stuck in fourth gear.
He was stuck in fourth gear, and he still went and won that race. What are we talking about? This is Kyle effing Busch we're talking about. Like
KFB, baby.
You know what I mean? Like, let's just call it what it is. And whether this slump, look, Brad Keselowski just got off of a 110 race winless streak. Kyle Busch won last season. He won 3 times. Like, yeah, it feels like a panic mode because we're not used to seeing Kyle struggle the way Kyle has.
No, I think there's a reason why I think a lot of us fans are in panic mode is because the last time we saw a driver rattle off 3 wins, not with a new team, but rattle off 3 wins and be strong and then automatically just fall off the face of the earth was Jimmie Johnson.
Right. That's a great point. And that is a scary feeling, not being certain of what your favorite driver is going through. Look, Kasey Kahne was my favorite driver his entire career. 2003 in Xfinity. Back then it was the Busch Series. The 2004 in his rookie season. That rookie season was painful for that man. I think he ended up with like 5 second place finishes and a couple photo finishes his rookie season. All the way until 2018, where I was getting worried. I was like, man, the sponsors were dwindling on the car. The car was getting more and more plain with each passing weekend. And then finally they made the announcement that Kasey had to retire because of some medical stuff he was dealing with. And that's a scary feeling as a fan. And I think a lot of Kyle Busch fans are kind of getting that anxious kind of Who's going to be my, like, what am I going to do? Like, I was going through those feelings with Casey Kane, right? And so that anxious feeling from the fans' perspective is scary, and it can be exciting at times because you also are proud of your driver for retiring, right? Like, you got to watch your favorite driver's career, and you became a Kyle Busch fan from the start of you being a NASCAR fan, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so there's no difference. Your entire fanhood has been Kyle Busch, and so I can see it when you talk about him in the group chat, and I can see it when it's being discussed in social media. It's kind of like unanswered questions, which Kyle Busch fans are not used to. They always knew what they were getting, and they knew when they were getting it. You know what I mean? So all of that being said, man, I had to rant about that a little bit because this is Kyle effing Busch we're talking about. Like, it's Kyle Busch, man. Like, he's gonna be fine.
Well, and it worries a lot of us because we're like with the All-Star race. If it wouldn't have been for the penalty for Kyle speeding on pit road during the pit crew challenge, man, we'd have been starting on the front row with Joey Logano.
Yeah, and
we were only 4/1000ths of a second slower than Joey Logano.
Right, and we've talked about the wouldas and the couldas and the shouldas before. We've talked about it with Hailie Deegan. We've talked about it with Matty D. You can't put yourself in position to be in a bad position. So if we actually rewind the tape all the way back to qualifying for North Wilkesboro, when Kyle Busch sped on pit, was it speeding penalty? Is what you said?
Yes.
Kyle Busch put himself in that position to be back with the squirrels and driver. And don't take this the wrong way, drivers like Ricky Stenhouse that probably shouldn't really even be in the All-Star race.
You know, the last time that Kyle used that, he was an incident with Ricky Stenhouse. I think it was at Texas. When you race with squirrels, you're bound to get hit by a nut.
Right, exactly. And he put himself in that position. I have mentioned that with Hailie Deegan multiple times this season. Everybody wants to say Hailie Deegan would have been just fine if she was up in the top 5. Yeah, everybody would have just done just fine if they were up in the top 5. Why were you not in the top 5? Why was your favorite racer not in the top 5 at that moment, and did they get in that wreck? Because they didn't qualify well. Why didn't they qualify well? Well, because 30 other drivers qualified better than them. You know, so there's another rant I had to kind of let off my chest.
It was just one of those, what ifs, what could have been, without that penalty, like I said, our speed and continuously through practice, we had a fast race car.
Absolutely.
It was just frustrating. I think we set the car up for daytime, and when everything shifted, Kyle even said that we were just super tight.
Yeah, and that makes sense, right? Because you want to be loose during the daytime. It's a little bit faster.
As loose as these guys are going to be going around this racetrack tonight, and all weekend for that matter, because with the 600, we're going to transition from the daytime into the nighttime. So the racetrack every year it changes. I've never seen a racetrack change so much in a single race, and it's
variable change, man. This track,
between the temperature change and what the sun's doing to it, just the asphalt, the grip. That's the other thing about when they say man versus machine for the 600.
Yep.
You're fighting that car. Nobody ever, I don't think anybody in the history of the Coke 600 has said, I had the perfect car.
No, and your car changes halfway through the race anyway. So it's impossible for somebody to have a perfect car all the way through. You're going to set up for one way, and then you're going to adjust as the night goes on.
And see, I think the last time we had somebody that came off the truck and just had speed and had nearly a perfect car was 2018 when Kyle Busch won the 600. Yep. Because we haven't seen a performance out of anybody whatsoever. Well, we had the performance by Kyle Larson when he won the 600 a couple years ago.
Right, and then you had Martin Truex Jr. I can't remember which track it was at. I think maybe Dover or maybe Darlington. Either way, he had something like almost 97% of the race led. It was something ridiculous, and I think that was within 10 years ago.
Yeah, so the last couple of years, it's like a bingo ball.
Right.
Like it's this
Who's
person,
gonna get the
okay,
dominant race?
yeah, like it's okay. So these guys showed speed in practice and in qualifying, qualified great. But then we got guys that are started 19th or 20th. Once the racetrack transitions, the field just completely flip flops.
Yep.
Um,
Doesn't that make it exciting though?
it really does though, because there's you don't everything about a race that you would normally have on the aspects of a short track. Do you mind? Do you mind?
We have a guest appearance, guest
Yeah.
star.
Just all aspects, because you're having to fight tire wear. You got to save fuel. You're fighting the balance of the race car. I mean, just all the variables that you don't normally have all at once, you have at the Coke 600 all at once, because the transition from day to night, the temperature change, just where it's at, the humidity. I didn't know this, but in different places, the humidity actually has a lot to do with the grip of the racetrack.
Absolutely. What is humidity? It's moisture. What does moisture do? It makes shit slippery.
That's why I never understood, but that's why Darlington is just so freaking slick.
Right.
It's so humid out there. Now, have you seen any of the paint schemes for this weekend?
Yeah, I looked them up actually. I counted out, I think 21 or 20 teams did a Stars and Stripe theme for the weekend. I think that is awesome. I don't remember what the actual numbers were for the Cup race in the throwback weekend, but it wasn't 20, that's for sure.
That's what I'm saying. It didn't even seem like it was half the field that involved themselves with throwback weekend.
Right, correct. And that's what I was saying is hang on one second, I'm looking them up again. Charlotte. The stars and stripe themes that people have come up with this season. They're loading right now. Ross Chastain has got a jockey scheme. It's all looks like gloss white with red, white, and blue trim underneath the one, and a blue chrome one.
I saw that, and it's really good looking.
Austin Dillon and his Bass Pro Shops. It's got the red, white, and blue aspect going. You've got Josh Berry in a complete just overthrow of red and blue with the white accents all over it.
I think Noah's running a red, white, and blue Winchester, or is it?
Yeah, he's got the Winchester. It's pretty much all blue and red, and then he's got white accents with a few stars on it. I mean, these schemes are so gorgeous, guys. And the fun part is we get to see them in the daylight for a little bit, and then we get to see these schemes under the lights. And there is nothing more beautiful than 36 screaming race cars under these lights that they've got out there. Shane Van Gisbergen for the Cup Series is running the 16 WeatherTech for I believe it's not Trackhouse, but it's not Spire. I can't think of the Colleague Racing.
There you go. Yeah.
He's got red chrome 16 numbers. They look absolutely phenomenal. Chris Buescher's got a black and green. It looks like a military style paint scheme or wrap.
Chase Elliott's is pretty slick.
Chase Elliott's looks phenomenal. I mean, the black and silver that they did on that, it's like a camo finish. Oh, just in. That's
now Corey LaJoie's isn't patriotic, but it's pretty slick.
Let me see Corey LaJoie's.
The Chili's
7. Oh, he went with the chili scheme this week, right? So he's got the big red chili over the wheel and the bright red 7. It still looks awesome. Let's see who else we got. Kyle Busch is in his ozone theme with the green and blue, which looks great under the lights. We saw that at Daytona.
Oh yeah.
There was a couple more in the 30s that I need to point out.
Bubba Wallace's new Money Lion Wow scheme. That was.
I posted that on social media yesterday, and it was, man, it got a lot of attention. Let's see.
That Ryan Preece car.
Ryan Preece's car looks freaking awesome. Jimmy Johnson is in his Advent Health green and blue. I'm surprised Daniel Suarez doesn't have a theme as patriotic. I say patriotic, but as proud as he is from his home country. It would have been cool to see Trackhouse kind of do a tribute to something on that 99, but they got Ross's absolutely killed. So Alex Bowman's got it all red and blue with the white ally. Even Eric Jones in that 43 has got a looks like kind of like a flag on the front half and then all white on the back half with the Family Dollar logo. So that looks really clean. We haven't done our predictions yet for. Real quick, let me rewind. We got to get Jordan's prediction for Xfinity.
Yeah, let's do that.
You want to take a guess at that one real quick?
Hailie Deegan.
Hailie Deegan's correct. No surprise there, but yeah, she shows a lot of strength at this racetrack when she was racing the trucks. So let's see what she can do tomorrow.
And I mean, speaking of Hailie Deegan, that paint scheme that she's running this weekend was pretty slick too.
Yep. Y'all need to check that out as soon as you get off the podcast. Check out her paint scheme. Let's see. We've got your Cup prediction.
My prediction, man, it's gonna have. He's been so strong the last couple years. Had a really good looking Dr. Pepper car last year. I think Bubba Wallace gets his first win of the season at the Coca-Cola 600.
And Bubba, that's a really good pick. Is that going to be like a sleeper pick, or is that an actual straight up?
No, when we were there last year, Bubba ran so well all day and all night long.
Great at Texas too.
So I honestly, if they come back with the same setup that they did last year, if it works for them, I would not honestly be surprised if we saw Bubba Wallace in victory lane at the Coke 600.
And can you imagine social media after what they just went through 5 days ago, Sunday and Monday? Bubba Wallace wins a cup race and locks himself into the playoffs with already a really good season he's putting together with a couple of unfortunate events that he's been caught up in.
Yeah.
That the internet's gonna break, bro. And whether you love Bubba, whether you like Bubba, whether you hate Bubba with all your heart and soul for some reason, because it's very personal to some people. If he wins, man, the ratings, I'm telling you, it's gonna do some magic, man. That's just how it goes. That's a really good pick. I like it. You think?
And I don't even feel that I could say that it's a bold pick, because I don't know why people wouldn't expect, even if you don't like him, why you wouldn't expect him to be up front at these racetracks.
Right. He is a very, very talented, not only all-around racer, but his mile and a half, his Kansas win, that he won that race, and he is very good at these style of races and these style of tracks. Look for that car to definitely maybe be in the top 10, top 5 by the end of this thing.
Man, who are you gonna pick?
Man, it's the Coke 600, right? 600 miles, Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a crown jewel. Man, I usually have my picks figured out. I usually have it ready to go, and I have my reasonings why. But it feels like this weekend's gonna be a magical race, no matter what. It's gonna be a great race. For all you Ty Gibbs fans out there, let's talk about Ty Gibbs for a moment. He's in some of the best equipment NASCAR and Toyota has to offer. He has put himself in position to finish well every single race this year and last year. He's not going to finish his career without a win, right? Can we agree to that?
Yeah.
Ty Gibbs is in the Interstate Batteries 54 Toyota Camry on Sunday, and I'm going to pick him to win this race. And I think that's also something that's really going to ramp up ratings, because a lot of people dislike this kid, and a lot of people have their own reasons for disliking this kid. But he's going to win. and he's going to win this season. And you've said this term a lot. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
When
And when is this weekend on Sunday night. Look for that 54 Toyota to be in victory lane. That's going to be my pick.
man, and I could, even for you people who don't, will you go away? For you people that don't like Ty Gibbs, you guys cannot deny the speed and the talent that this kid brings to the racetrack. And I wouldn't say that picking Ty Gibbs would be bold either. That would be a guy that I would expect to win this race. He always runs very well at the 1.5 miles. No Cup Series wins yet, but this is his second full season, is it not?
This is his second full-time season in Cup.
Okay, so it's like I said, it's not if but when, and I could definitely see it happening Sunday night.
Were you expecting me to pick Ty Gibbs?
No, I can honestly say I was not expecting you to pick Ty Gibbs. Honestly, I thought your two picks would have been either Denny Hamlin or Tyler Reddick.
Reddick, of course. I'm always going to be rooting for Reddick.
And he ran really well at this race last year, too, in that blue Jumpman.
Right. Oh, my gosh. That car, that blue Jumpman, he ran twice, and it's been top 5 both times. And he is in his nasty beast on Sunday. So they got
sucks. Could you imagine a Tyler Reddick win in that baby blue Jordan with the Coke 600 confetti on it?
Don't threaten me with a good time, man. Come on now. That Jumpman needs to end up in, and I love that he got that Talladega Jumpman in victory lane. What a beautiful car that they put out on that track. That black and white, and not all black and white cars look that great. You really got to hit the number right on these schemes, because they can get mixed in with the rest of them and you won't even notice them the entire race. But these guys that know how to put these cars together right, man, Toyota and Jumpman, or 2311, they put some fire on the racetrack. If he wins in that Carolina blue car, can you imagine the orders?
Oh, my Lord.
You're going to have people that have barely even watched a race going to know about this, because what I've seen on social media all across X and Instagram, your Facebooks, is people talking about the Jumpman paint schemes for NASCAR, and they're pairing them up with their shoes because they match their shoes that they've already got. And so you're bringing in a whole new market with the way Michael and these guys are putting it on the racetrack. It's really fun to see.
It is. It's really fun to watch them over 2311, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace. It's fun to watch Denny be excited about something else other than beating everybody's favorite drivers.
Right. Which he's doing this season, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And Denny Hamlin, honestly, everybody's like, he'll win the championship. This is how, how many seasons here lately has he had like this and been absolutely on fire and choked at Phoenix?
Right. He's the Cowboys of the NASCAR is what it is.
It wouldn't surprise me if he won the regular season championship.
Wouldn't surprise me if he made it to the championship 4 and not win it. It would not surprise me. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Denny Hamlin is running out of his mind. Denny Hamlin is running right within his talent level, and it's proving it every single weekend.
And it seems like he's being smart at the racetrack every week. It's not just these super speedways. He's taking advantage of every opportunity.
He's picking.
If you could jiggle the doorknob just enough for him to be able, if he can kick it in, screw cracking that door. Denny Hamlin, if he sees that door start to open, it's getting kicked down and he's going.
Right. And he's got a different swag about him this season. I noticed ever since the documentary came out. The docu-series for NASCAR at the beginning of the season. He's racing with a different kind of swag and a different kind of confidence this season. And that's pretty scary, because at his age, had he had done this 10 years ago, Jimmy Johnson might not have 7 championships. And Denny Hamlin probably has 4 or 5. So it's interesting to see Denny race the way he's racing this year. And you mentioned how much fun he's having being a team owner. he is having a blast with these guys. He talked about celebrating with Tyler Reddick and how angry he was because of how he finished. But it automatically, he said, it snapped. I snapped out of it because I got a celebration to go enjoy with my team. So I think that's helping alleviate some of the tough moments in his career here towards the end, and being able to enjoy it with the guys he's helping in their careers.
And if Denny's on a good streak, if he's keeping his mindset where it needs to be and all that stuff, he's a dangerous man.
Yep.
And I feel like, if it's this year that he wins the Cup Series championship, the minute he wins his first one, he ain't stopping. That's the minute they come over and they drop that checkered flag and he wins his first Cup Series championship, that's going to be there goes another Jimmy Johnson. It would not surprise me if he rattled off 3 championships back to back.
Yeah. When's the last time we saw the three-peat would be Jimmy Johnson 06 to 010 or 2010?
Yeah, 010.
Oh, that's still correct. A lot of things have to go right for a driver to win the NASCAR Cup Championship. You got to put yourself in position all season long. This is not just somebody getting lucky at the end of the season. Do I think they could change up the in playoff format and make the championship round 3 races? Absolutely. I don't understand why it's one race. That seems very silly to me. But it's a season-long thing. You got to be good every single week, every single stage. You got to collect them points. These races are not just races to happen for nothing, right? It's not like the NBA and the NFL where everybody starts 0-0 and with nothing, right? You have your playoff series in the NBA and you have 7 games and the first to win 4 moves on. With NASCAR, you're collecting points for the playoffs all season long.
Yep.
And Hamlin has got a very full bucket right now, along with wins. So he's putting himself in position to where he doesn't have to be perfect in the first couple rounds of the playoffs. And he has enough points that's going to lift him if he doesn't finish as well as some of the other playoff contenders. And that's why he's going to be in really good position to win a championship this
year. Shane Van Gisbergen, we haven't really mentioned him. We're going to Charlotte. He ran really well, had a really good run at Darlington. I think they said they're bringing the same car that they ran at Texas,
right,
to Charlotte. I would expect nothing less, and he's running the Cup race as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in the 16 WeatherTech car. It looks awesome.
Okay, well, and then I wouldn't expect him any less. That would not be. Some people might say be bold, but it wouldn't surprise me if Shane Van Gisbergen rattled off a win.
Yeah.
And we saw how well he ran in a Cup car at Talladega, so we know he can handle his own.
Right, and he's only getting better. He's only gaining experience. Even if he has a rough day at the office, let's just say the car never comes around to him and he's piddling around in 27th and 30th and 33rd. He's still learning. And Shane is such a gifted driver that even though he's finishing 30th, he's taking that information and he's going to do better the next time they come back around to the same racetrack because he's that good. They are in a small slump, if I'm thinking correctly. Him in Xfinity in the 97, is it a Trackhouse car?
Yes.
He's in a little bit of a slump. He had a really promising start to the season. He was finishing well. He was finishing races. But as far as the points, do we know where he's sitting in Xfinity points right now?
I have no idea.
We'll find out real quick. See, this is why we got to hire a moderator.
See,
4 burning questions. Xfinity, sorry about the quiet time. I'm really curious to see points.
Okay, here are we. Shane Van Gisbergen is 15th in points.
Okay, so he's actually a couple spots out of the playoffs, correct?
Hold on, playoffs will tell me.
They take the top 12, I believe, in Xfinity. Either way,
Yeah, either way.
slump or not, Shane Van Gisbergen. Do we and to elaborate even more, do we think he's in Cup next year full time, or are they gonna follow a process and kind of San Antonio Spurs his way, kind of develop him correctly, give him a few years in Xfinity, and then give him a full time Cup ride?
Who, SVG?
Shane Van Gisbergen.
I don't feel like he gets a Cup ride next year, to be
Okay.
completely honest. I feel like he gets his 2 year, like he takes this year, even if he only rattles off one win. Like you said, he's learning. He's an experienced and a very talented race car driver. We already know he can win at the highest series.
Right.
He proved that at the Chicago Street Course last year. Outdrove
Clinic.
Outdrove everybody.
Right.
So when he gets in the Cup car, if I'm not mistaken, he's running Sonoma in a Cup car.
Yeah, and he's spotting for someone else, by the way. He's spotting for an Xfinity driver, I heard. A Sonoma race.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, I read that earlier because I'm a little bit of a Shane Van Gisbergen fanboy. Will Brown. Let's see. Shane Van Gisbergen to spot for Will Brown at Sonoma. Will Brown's crew. So it's the 888 supercars. Brown replaced. Yeah, so the supercars are out there at Sonoma the same weekend that Cup, I guess the weekend before Cup.
Yeah.
Going to send him out there to spot for him. So that's going to give him more experience at that racetrack as a spotter moving forward as soon as he goes to race there.
Well, he'll know pretty much where everything is at because they didn't go back to the other configuration. They're still using the chute this year. And then we had the repave.
Right. That's going to be interesting if it holds up.
If it holds up, that's dangerous because Shane Van Gisbergen, give him pretty much what he's used to. Black asphalt.
Great race car and black asphalt. Woo!
It wouldn't be far-fetched or surprising if he were to lead this race and gap between him and second place be more than 12 seconds.
12 seconds? Give me an over-under on that. I'd probably take the under. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a gap. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts an unreachable distance because, one, he's not going to make mistakes, right? He's not going to make mistakes at these. Let's go back to Coda. Watched him race live in person. The guy was better than everybody else. Now, we had the end of the race thing where everybody's beating and banging and what happened, and that was great racing. Kyle Larson ended up the beneficiary of that. But you give him a clean race car and you give him speed, his experience already at road course racing and winning championships at that level. Forget about it, man. He's going to put on another clinic.
Oh, no, that 97 car, now that I think about it, that 97 car is it's not Trackhouse.
Is it Colleague?
Yep, there you go. It's a third Colleague.
They use the Trackhouse font, don't they, in the letters?
Yeah.
Whereas Colleagues is a little bit more rounded on the curves of the numbers. So it's interesting that they kind of incorporate both teams on that car. I like that.
Well, so what about Monaco? I'm just going to go ahead and say Max is probably going to get another win this week.
I think it's a safe bet to assume that Max Verstappen probably wins the 2024 Monaco Grand Prix. Man, what a just a prestigious and historic race this is for Formula One. Even though a lot of the I don't want to say excitement because the racing is still exciting when you're there in person. It's way more predictable the last few years now that we're getting into the meat of Verstappen's career and what he's able to do. Yeah, why not? Why not Max? Because he's not giving us reasons to pick against him, so I'm going to pick him.
And Jordan's pick was
I think
it
it
Matt?
was Max. Yeah, it was Max.
I mean, you can't bet against the guy.
Right. Right. You got $50 to spend on Formula One. Go put it on Max and make you about $12 because you put it on anybody else, you're not going to win.
No. The Indy 500. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Kyle Larson becomes Indy 500 champion
As a rookie.
as a rookie
You're not
in
even,
his first Indy start.
you're not even going to tease me with like making me think talk for a few seconds and make me think you're going to pick one of these big hitters, right? Like Helio, he's in this one, isn't he? He's going for number 5.
Yeah. Well, and then you got Will Power and Scott McLaughlin.
Right. We haven't even said Newgarden's name yet. That's the 5th name we said in line. Like what? Kyle Larson, man, you got a big task ahead of you, my friend. Is he capable? Absolutely. Kyle Larson is capable of taking that race car and going and showing these guys exactly how to race an Indy car. But
yeah, there's a but.
But we're talking about the best of the best. We're talking about guys that have won this race before. We're talking about guys that have tried and failed miserably that want to win it more than anything in their entire lives. You think they're just going to let some rookie from NASCAR come in and swipe one of these things from him? They're going to make it hard on him. They're going to make it real hard on him.
Oh, and I'm sure, but I have no doubt that Kyle Larson is up for the challenge.
Up for the challenge, and it's a good thing that he's doing the Indy 500 first, because if he had to do the Coke 600 first and then go turn around and do an Indy 500,
he wouldn't have a chance.
I don't think so either, man. I don't think so either.
And that leaves us to say that it's just amazing on what's happening, and we saw Tony Stewart. It's interesting to follow what Kyle Larson is doing. But you look at Tony Stewart, he did the double in 99 and in 2001, I believe.
Right.
In 99, he finished 5th or 6th. Went and did the Coke 600. And when they hit pit road after the race, after the 600, he climbed out of the car and collapsed.
Right. I don't even think he climbed out of that car, Kevin. I think he had to be actually extricated from that driver's window and placed onto a stretcher. We'll have to go back and watch that video. I think he needed a lot of help getting out of that race car, and then he wasn't able to take, if any steps, he was right on the stretcher.
It's grueling. It's rough. And there's not much time for rest at all between. And if he wins the Indy 500, does he make the Coke 600?
No, there's no way. There's no way he makes the Coke. There's so much that comes with winning the Indy 500, right? Like there's all the prep you got to do post race, right when you get out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to do the celebration. You haven't even added the automatic hour to hour and 30 of media time that goes on top of winning the Indy 500. That's just at the track. That's just the media center at Indy. I don't see how a driver wins the Indianapolis 500 and then says, I can't do all of this stuff that y'all's tradition calls for, or that the tradition calls for, and go jump in another race car. I don't see it happening. I hope that he's able to do all of that stuff correctly and how he needs to, and gets to the Coke 600 and starts it. I don't think it happens.
I know they said that Justin Allgaier is on standby if need be to drive the 5 car.
Right. I can see starting and then Kyle coming in and jumping in.
And they do a driver swap during a pit stop.
Or a stage break. Right.
Yeah. I don't see. Justin's got a lot of talent, but not Cup talent.
And I don't think he's going to have that talent when he gets into Kyle Larson's car that's going to be set up for Kyle. That car's not going to be set up for Justin. Let's just get that out of the way right now.
Yeah.
That gamble and try and they're just not.
Well, and that's the thing. Larson, I think they're going to practice. I'm not sure if they've said they're pulling out of qualifying, because even if Larson qualifies that car, if he doesn't make it and Allgaier has to start the race, they're going to have to start at the back of the field anyway.
Yeah, automatic start at the back of the field, which puts you right in the middle of what we've already talked about. It's going to put you in a lot of dangerous spots, and it's going to do it really fast.
So at practice, I would run all the laps that I could, and then adjust the car from there and save it for the race.
So do you think they tell Justin, just get this car around the track, log the laps we need you to log, don't worry about racing anybody, stay on the lead lap, stay out of trouble? Or do they say, go do what you need to do?
Honestly, because it is Cliff Daniels, it is those guys. I think that Cliff says, go out there, do what you can do.
Okay.
Don't push it.
The race car.
Yeah, be safe. Keep the race car safe. Don't push it further than what you want to.
Right.
Or what you need to. If I'm Cliff Daniels, I'm saying go out there. If you've got the speed, go out there and get it. But if you're having to fight, tooth and nail for a position, try to keep within a position where you're at, but just don't risk wrecking that race car.
Right. A wrecked race car ain't gonna win the race,
and that keeps Kyle Larson from doing the double.
Even if you give him a banged up race car, that's not ideal, right? So I think they tell him to hang back. I think they tell him to stay on the lead lap, take care of the race car. And this is just assuming that Kyle Larson wins the Indy 500 and can't even start the Coke 600. Let's be real for a second. Chances are he's going to finish the Indy 500, jump on a private plane, and
jump on a helicopter, go to the airport, get on an airplane, then fly into Charlotte and
get on a helicopter and go
to the track.
So this is all assuming that Kyle Larson doesn't even make the start of the race, that we would need Justin Allgaier and Cliff Daniels to make a decision on how to run the race until Kyle gets there. I'm going to backtrack to, I think Kyle will be there for the start of the race, and I still think he finishes well at the Indy 500. I think he puts on a show. I think his stock doubles after this race, regardless of how he finishes, because it's really cool to see somebody do this. Let's just call it what it is. What Kyle Larson is about to do in a couple days is, there's a reason not a lot of guys do it. You know what I mean?
To me, I would do it just out of pure adrenaline, just pure fun.
Right.
I know a lot of these guys, they're good at it. It's what they love to do. I would love to have a job to go out and do what these guys do. That would be my desk job.
Right. I would love to be a tire changer if it meant being at the racetrack all week.
Well, I mean, you have to be fast as a tire changer now, but
Hey, what are you trying to say, man? I'm not that slow.
Oh, well, coming out of turn 4, Tanner Gray is going to win the ARCA race.
And he's going to jump out. He's going to jump out of that. God bless you. He's going to jump out of that race car, victory lane, and go hop into his truck.
In here in about 50 minutes, yeah. But he's got to do all the victory lane stuff.
Right.
And then it's a crazy weekend for everybody, man.
Really?
I mean, Kyle Larson, it would be funny just for shits and giggles, excuse my language, but if Larson got Amazon as a sponsor after doing all of this.
Can you imagine all the people that are anti-Amazon and the headache they would be in? That would be so hilarious. It would bring me so much joy just to see them struggle with their decisions.
Well, and I would love for a service like Amazon to come back into NASCAR and give FedEx a run for their money. Like, where did UPS go?
Right.
And and the companies like that.
I think David Reagan in the 6 car was the last guy to run UPS. That's not true. Ross Chastain ran the UPS throwback last year.
At Darlington.
But as far as being a full-time UPS logo on a race car, it's been a while.
Man, the good old days. The the I miss the sponsorship battles
Right, right.
from
Your
old
Budweisers,
NASCAR.
Miller Genuine Drafts to your FedExes
The
and
Pepsis and the Cokes, the FedEx to the
all.
UPS. Um, you had Home Depot, yeah, Home Depot and Lowe's.
Right.
Um,
It was fun, man. It was cool to see companies, no, our race car's better. No, our race car's better. Like it was a real thing back in the 90s and 2000s.
and I wish that the sport still did that. The sponsorship battles, like let's see who can have. So Gear Rent or Goodwrench and Haas Tooling are bringing, you know, paint schemes to the racetrack. Let's see who can come up with the best paint scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's basically
Um,
what we're doing. They had some, even though they were typically plain in today's standards, some of the paint schemes from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s were absolute fire. Like they just, it was incredible to see these cars. You knew with the terrible quality TVs, you knew exactly where your car was, no matter what. Like that's how awesome some of these paint schemes were back then, and how they would stand out. You had mentioned Amazon. That's where we got going on that one. If Amazon came to NASCAR, is NASCAR fully back? Is NASCAR back? If Amazon were to jump onto a sponsorship deal with because I know they're doing the TV deal, right?
yeah, I don't feel like NASCAR would be back because we're still just barely introducing. Like there for a while, besides Bush Beer, there what they wouldn't allow another alcoholic beverage company into the sport, and then all of a sudden, boom! Here we got Kyle Busch with Rebel Bourbon.
Right.
Um, I mean, you go to the racetrack. I know here at Bristol, for both races, they have a Jack Daniels tent, and it's huge. I think it sits like 150 people, and they've got this big bar where they $5 shots and drinks and all this. I'm like, you guys can allow it at the racetrack, but you won't allow it on the race car.
Which is really interesting to make you wonder where those decisions came into play. I know they did a lot of work with the cigarette companies and the stuff they had as far as promoting tobacco and stuff that actually really wasn't good for people. And I know alcohol is not great for people. People handle it in their different ways, and they enjoy it and consume it in their different ways. Why do you think they're slowly allowing more alcohol sponsors to come back through? Do you think it was a lack of sponsorship, or they got to a point where they're like, maybe alcohol is not that big of a deal as far as having a sponsorship compared to a cigarette company?
Well, and I feel like it's like okay, alcohol isn't that big of a deal, because what was it? I made myself a rowdy rebel or a rowdy rebel the other night, um, and my daughter went to pick up my cup, and I was like, nope. But she smelt it. She got the smell off the bourbon, and she was like, ew. And I think a lot of people are like, alcohol, it has a certain taste. It doesn't matter if it's bourbon, whiskey, tequila, whatever it may be. Alcohol is alcohol, and some of it absolutely tastes like crap.
Right.
Um, but smoking, uh, some people might start to do that just out of stress. It's
Okay.
easier to promote
Stress relief.
tobacco use because it's a stress relief.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that alcohol isn't, because we have alcoholics and alcoholism, things of that nature.
Right.
But it's easier. It's easier to promote because it's easier for people just to pick up the habit.
Right.
There's a lot of people that would pick up a shot glass of tequila and be like, "No, this is not for me." But they might pick up that cigarette and be like, "No, this ain't that bad."
Right.
So I
Are
feel like maybe
you
that's why tobacco hasn't been involved.
are you okay
Um,
with that decision? Do you think it would help to have tobacco companies allowed on sponsorship deals with NASCAR, or do you think it's better as far as the fan base and promoting good health and all the good that NASCAR does try to do in the communities? and as far as their fans are concerned.
Now with this answer, I'm sure that I'm going to piss one part of the fan base off, if not the other.
That's how it goes
Whether
when we're in the media.
well, I mean, whether it's the old school fans, the 2010 tween fans, or the new fans, you have to think about it. Back in the day when NASCAR started, it was an adult sport. There's smoking, drinking. I know watching these races, you watch these people sitting in the grandstands just at Talladega, and they're just sitting here smoking on a cigarette and sipping on a beer. You see the beer and all that stuff. Now the smoking, obviously, it has the FDA and the CDC, whatever, have all determined that secondhand smoke, gives people cancer.
It can be worse in some instances, depending on the person. It can be worse, yes.
But with it being nowadays, as much access as you have to the drivers and as many children as you see coming to the racetrack now, NASCAR is not necessarily a child sport, but it is a family-oriented sport.
Correct.
So I feel like that's why they've let the alcohol sponsors that they have back in the sport, because it's been mild. So Busch beer, kid hears beer and says ew,
right?
Or the Monster Beast or the Unleashed or whatever. That
was an interesting one to me because so many kids do run to the Monster section at the gas stations and convenience stores. Like I noticed that working for a grocery chain down here in South Texas, that kids go right to the Monsters when they run to the little fridge. And I'm not saying kids like toddlers, but like 12, 13-year-olds, that range. Like they're into those types of drinks that pop and flash. But it was interesting that they incorporated the alcohol to it. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I thought it was interesting that they came out with a Monster alcohol and that NASCAR was okay with promoting it, because it doesn't look like an alcoholic thing that they're promoting.
No, I think that's what the big deal about it is that it doesn't scream alcohol. Monster is just putting their name out there.
Right. And they put that little 6.0 at the back part of the fender.
And see, like I said, with Busch beer, kids are going to hear beer and think ew.
Right.
So they really don't. But with tobacco, these kids are going to be like, oh, cigarettes. Well, my favorite driver wears cigarettes and does all this. It's just easier, like I said, to promote that too. And we have to worry about the children because, like I said, it's a family-oriented sport now.
Yes, and they're very easily influenced. And so they don't want to influence the wrong things, especially at the wrong time.
And that's why I feel like M&M's leaving the sport was kind of odd, because where you get most of your money, I guarantee at least half of Mars's merch sales came from children.
Right.
Or for children. And then you're promoting, so the kids are going into the gas stations or grocery stores. Hey, I want M&M's. Hey, I want Skittles. I want Snickers. I want this. I want that. My daughter does it. She still asks where in the hell the M&M's car is out on the track, and I have to tell her almost week in and week out. Kyle doesn't drive for them anymore.
Right.
It was easier to promote that kind of stuff for children, and the paint schemes that comes with that. Some of those paint schemes are really good looking. Look at the 2020 Zombie Skittles scheme at Texas.
And for those who haven't seen it.
Oh, I didn't know you had one.
I had to get this race win. That is an awesome paint scheme. I don't know a lot of times that Kyle Busch has ran a gray scheme like that, but the gray looks really cool. The Skittles and the detail on the rainbow looks awesome. I mean, they did a great job, Mars and NASCAR, putting this together.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Got the little eyeball as the O and the zombie, like the detail with the graveyard at the bottom, with the side skirts.
And then the end of the race, the zombie helmet that he wore to match,
right,
was really good. But look at the M&Ms, the baby blue. You had the hazelnut spread, like him winning at Pocono a couple years ago.
Pretzel.
Yep, and then the crunchy cookie.
Oh yeah, the crunchy cookie, and the pretzel one was the light blue too, I think.
Yeah. That was kid oriented and had a lot of really good looking paint schemes. I mean, I know a lot of people won't admit this, but the Ethel's chocolate car that Kyle ran at Las Vegas twice.
No, that car looked awesome.
It was one of those cars like the color just caught your eye, and they
Right.
did really good with it. The Halloween scheme for Kyle, whether it was Snickers or M&Ms or anything like that, was always good looking cars. But it doesn't seem like we get. It seems like our paint schemes have gone bland. Like nobody pops anymore.
Right. I would have to partially disagree because I feel like every weekend there's one or two cars that actually do pop off the screen, whether in person on track or if you're watching it on TV. And credit it to the creative marketing people that put the designs together for these race cars. Do all of the teams hit every weekend? Absolutely not. Sometimes, like you're saying, they just put out duds, and like I've mentioned before, they kind of blend into everything else. You don't really see the car the whole time. You definitely never had that with M&Ms and Kyle Busch and all the different schemes they ran. You knew exactly where that 18 was at all times.
Oh yeah,
Did not matter what. And I feel that way about Denny Hamlin and FedEx when he used to run FedEx all the way across the board. You knew where Denny Hamlin was. That 11 on top of that car was so loud, and FedEx always had a bright accent color to make sure.
Well, do you remember? I think it was 2017, 2018, the all purple FedEx car.
Yeah.
Like that was a really good looking paint scheme that absolutely popped. Kyle Larson, I miss his Target paint schemes.
Yeah.
The Clorox Target paint scheme was really good. And the Huggies, I think it was Huggies or Pampers car he ran at Bristol back in 2017.
Right.
But yeah, I mean we get one or two cars, but it's gone from. I'm not saying it needs to be every car every weekend, but if they want the sport to catch somebody's eye, we need to be using paint schemes as well. Because we got to make the cars look attractive.
So you think putting more effort into the car's actual overall look? Because I'm gonna reach back into the numbers being shifted all of 3 inches forward on the door, and a lot of people coming unglued over it until eventually everybody just kind of got used to it, is what it seems like. I don't mind it. I think the car looks great both ways. I think the numbers on the side actually look more like the Xfinity cars. And so when you had those two races that didn't really look different, it was like, okay, at least now the racing style is different and the numbers on the door look different. So it actually looks like different classes. We were talking about people putting better schemes out. Why is it so difficult for these teams to have a marketing person and be like, hey, get on the computer and a month ahead of time or 2 months ahead of time, whatever the case is, have that paint scheme ready for that track? And why are they not going above and beyond to make some of them look more flashy and look more poppy? Because so many of them do blend in so much.
And if they need help with this, hey, us fans love contests, bro.
Right.
Put out what was it last year? Alex Bowman and Ally put out that contest. Design this race car, and if you win, your paint scheme will be on the Ally 48 for the Miami race.
Yep.
The teams need to do more of that. Give us freedom for the fans to be able to put their touch on a race car.
Get more involved with your fans because it shows that you care. It shows that you're actually interested in what you're trying to attract to your team. And if fans are seeing their ideas on track, there's no better connection than doing something like that. Having these kinds of contests where people, and especially in the day and age we live in, where so many people are sitting on their computers playing on their digital, their editing apps all the time. Like people would come up with some absolute bangers. I have no doubt about
it. I know Don will agree with me. 3Chi, if you're listening, we need a white pearl car with gold accents.
Yep, absolutely.
If it's going to be the last race of the season, please make it a white pearl car with gold accents. Please.
Right. And then also in that white pearl, very, very discreetly, little 3Chi logos, like the one on your hat, just very discreetly shadowed in like all over the car. That would look so insane. It would pop. You put a gold chrome 8 on the side of that car, you would not be able to sell enough die casts with that thing.
it would be incredible.
I mean,
Fun.
the hat. Could you imagine the hat that would come with it?
Right.
I can only imagine the race suit that Kyle would be wearing. It's almost like the white M&M's race suit.
Yep.
Those were the white race suits like that were always the ones that just really popped.
Denny Hamlin has his white Jordan FedEx jumps race suit that looks absolutely insane every time he wears it.
And talking about involving more, I know we do pink window nets for the Kurt Busch Foundation. Can we go back to normalizing Susan G. Komen paint schemes and like breast cancer awareness paint schemes? Because there's a lot that would, like Kyle Larson's car, instead of the blue, red, and white, if they did pink and white with the Hendricks cars, I think that would sell. I think that car would look really slick in assuming a pink
diecast.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that they probably thought about that route at some point. Maybe it has something to do with Susan B. Komen not wanting to put that much money towards whatever. We all know the foundation that they're doing.
Oh, well, I mean, it doesn't have to be the Susan Komen Foundation as a sponsor.
Our pink.
Yeah, but just like their tribute to whatever breast cancer and all that stuff, instead of just doing the one pink window net at Charlotte.
Right.
I mean, look at Kyle. I keep going back to Kyle, but he has had some of the best looking paint schemes with these M&Ms. Yep. The pink 2012 and 2015.
It's one of his most expensive diecasts.
Yeah, that's for sure. And if you find it for under 300, you got a deal, buddy.
Yeah, pick it up.
I don't.
It was the pink M&Ms. COT is what it was, right?
COT. Yeah. Well, he ran another one in 2015.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, at the playoffs when it was still on the oval.
Right.
I'm excited about that for next year. I don't think the Roval has really been any use to the playoffs. Honestly, I really wish they would have moved, and I see why it sits where it sits in the schedule, because we already have the Coke 600 in May.
Right.
And it would be stupid to schedule another Charlotte race in July or August.
Right, and they've done the Roval, like we got it out of our system. It didn't work out. Let's move on. Go back to the D shape.
And we can't really, as much as I think it'd be cool to move the Coke 600 to a race in the playoffs, you really can't because of where Memorial Day falls.
Yeah, there's a reason that they put this weekend together, all of Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR. There's a reason they coordinated this weekend all together. It's for a purpose. So none of those dates are going to move or change. It's all about getting the Charlotte race, that's the Roval, out of the playoffs.
But see, and the thing that I feel that, or move the Roval race into the next round, like the round of 8. Right. Because you have, I think we're going to Kansas, then Talladega, then the Roval. So you have two flip of the coin racetracks right back to back. And to me, I don't feel like that's fair to a lot of drivers. Yes, it poses a challenge. And yes, it makes or breaks the playoffs for that round. But I feel like it's a little much on some of these drivers, especially the ones that are low in points. Because you have to run really well at Talladega, because if you don't run well at Talladega, you're in a must-win situation the next week at the Roval.
Right, and you also have to remember it's not the only reason that flipped, because Texas was normally a playoff race in September, but because of the repave this year, they had to move the Texas race up to April. They added what to the playoffs? It wasn't Charlotte. Was Charlotte always in the playoffs?
Yeah, Charlotte's always been in the playoffs. Now Texas lost a date.
Well, they had the All-Star race in 2022 and the Texas race, so they had 2 races.
Yeah. Well, starting this year, they had lost a race.
I think that was because of the repave, though. Or are they going to one race from now on?
Oh, are they doing a repave at Texas?
That's why they moved the race up to April this year. It's normally at the back half of the season.
We'll see, because I know the last couple years they've been talking. That's why they took a points paying race away from Texas, is because a lot of people were complaining about the spring race at Texas. Normally, because of how cold it is, it doesn't really produce a halfway decent race. Now this year, I thought the race was really good.
We were in for a treat, man. The truck race, the Xfinity race, of course, and the Cup race was so entertaining all the way across the board.
Honestly, I feel like that we already have COTA in Texas. And I'm not saying it's the same, because it's obviously two different styles of racetrack. And this might be stupid of me to say, considering, and I'll explain in a minute, but why do we need 3 Texas races?
You're right. We don't.
But in the same aspect of what I was talking about, making myself sound stupid, is when we do the West Coast swing, we don't have Fontana anymore, but we had Fontana and Sonoma. So we have 2 California races. There was another race in California, wasn't there? No. Because you had Phoenix and Las Vegas, and that was the West Coast swing. But to me, there's just, when we have another racetrack, and like I said, I'm all about the change. I like seeing us go to a different racetrack. Like, I'm completely excited about seeing what's going to go down at Iowa.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Chicago, we saw a wet racetrack last year. I think it produced a halfway decent race, thanks to Shane Van Gisbergen.
From a show.
So I'm excited about that, to give that another go this year. But as far as, after they did was it the turn 1 and 2 banking is what they fixed?
Right.
Or what they added, the progressive banking, I think that ruined Texas as a whole. Because now you don't have guys running all the way up against the wall like you did when, what was it, 2014, when, or maybe it's even the car, that they're not able to spread the racing out as much. You know what I'm saying?
I was going to mention that when you were done making your point, is I think the evolution of the car over the years since Texas Motor Speedway was built is really affected the quality of racing. That being said, with the next gen car, I think it's starting to come back around and be really good for Texas, whereas the Gen 6 and even the COT was just not as entertaining.
I feel like leave the configuration where it's at.
Right.
1 and 2, we need to bring the angle down a little bit.
I think what is happening with some of the exit of turn 4 and the exit of turn 2 is a lot of racetracks actually have more of a banking to their straightaways, and Texas, it goes from such a high bank to a completely
almost
the other direct. I mean, I would say borderline the other direction of an angle. It's so flat, and some of those drivers are saying you lose so much control of what you're doing because of the transition. That's why the track wasn't successful for so long.
And I feel like, man, that's probably why a lot of people are still just pounding the wall coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, and turn 4.
I mean, hell, not even exit of turn 4. We saw Martin Truex just kiss the wall right there, almost right there in the restart zone.
Yeah.
So.
And that angle, whew, man, those tracks, when they hit that angle, man.
And you know it hurts when you in real time can watch the wall wave and bend.
Right.
And it's just, you're like, oh my God.
Yep.
Because you see hits like that. And then we go back to 2017 Bubba Wallace at Pocono, where that safer barrier didn't look like it gave not a bit.
No, he smashed that wall. That might have been Bubba's hardest hit of his career.
Something's got to be done with Texas.
I don't know.
I'm not saying.
I borderline think it's coming back around naturally on its own without messing with it. The way the car transitions so much through the decades, it feels like it could be coming back around. I've been to the Texas race the last 2 years, and as a fan in person, I had a blast, and as a spectator from the infield out, it was insane. It was insanity.
would you feel like maybe it would help so maybe we can get guys against the wall again in 1 and 2 transitioning, not doing resin, or maybe we need a compound of some sort, not necessarily PJ1, but maybe from a lane down from the wall and about 2 lanes up from the bottom, just right there at the exit of the corner onto the straightaway, and that's it.
Maybe. But I think you're going to have more success if you move this race to the night. I think if you have a Texas night sky in the springtime where it's still not crazy humid up in the northeast part of Texas, up there in Fort Worth, you're going to get a really fast racetrack, and you're going to have a really comfortable racetrack for fans to enjoy. I think that would benefit more moving the race to a night race, maybe even a Saturday night race. Maybe give the fans a doubleheader where you have Xfinity, you have trucks on Friday night, and you have Xfinity on Saturday, because they're going to slip and slide no matter if it's day or night anyway.
Oh yeah.
And then you have your Cup race on Saturday night. That way, everybody can enjoy their Sunday and get back to their work week.
And with going on into the night, the track is going to grip up rather than slick off.
Right.
So does that help the team save race cars?
Maybe it's worth a try. I think it doesn't hurt.
You just feel like if they've got more grip and less chance to slip and slide and maybe back it into the wall or slam it, might be better off for the team, saving them money. And it also, for those guys that are trying super hard, that are just getting every inch of what they can out of their car, pounding the wall, there goes their night.
Toast.
So, doing that at night, bounce off the wall a little bit, you're not spinning and dragging your nose all the way down the back stretch,
Right.
like we've seen multiple times. So,
I think be the best option for Texas Motor Speedway, and just try it out for a couple of years. See what the fans think. Because I've been to both a night race at Texas Motor Speedway and I've been to a daytime September race, and it was rough, man. It was
night and day.
It was night and day, bro. And bring your sunscreen, bring fluorescent colors, man, because you wear dark colors, you're gonna torch completely.
Lost my train of thought.
We might about have to wrap it up, man. We went over 2 hours this time. I think we.
Oh boy, hey. So, oh wow, they're picking Ben Rhodes to win this race tonight.
Ben Rhodes, and you picked. Who did you pick? Let's see.
Who did I pick?
I picked Ty Gibbs. You picked Bubba Wallace.
For Cup, that's right. Well, that's Cup. Trucks. Jack Wood, that's my pick.
Jack Wood, okay, for tonight. And I want Nick Sanchez.
Hey, that's a good pick. Don't bet. Oh my Lord, don't bet against that Black Deuce out there, man.
Right.
Well,
all right.
We had a lot to talk about. 2 hours for the weekend that we're about to have really isn't going over.
We covered all the racing too. We didn't stick on one. I think we did a really good job of getting our Formula One stuff in. We got some IndyCar stuff in for everyone. Of course, after Indy wraps up, we're gonna have all sorts of stuff to talk about for IndyCar. Of course, Memorial Day weekend, Monaco, F1, Coke 600, ladies and gentlemen. Sunday night, you gotta watch.
Well, now all we got to do is watch. We went over, we talked about what we see for coming for this weekend. Now we just we're gonna let it all play out.
Absolutely.
And the only thing, one more thing, the Monaco Grand Prix, I know for me, starts at 7 or 7:30 in the morning.
Correct.
So you're like 6 or 6:30.
Yeah, I'm at 6. I've already got an alarm set for that morning. No, I'm not messing around, man. This is a great weekend, and everybody, man, wake up, get you some breakfast, and enjoy that race.
See, I'm already up naturally at like 7:30 every morning, anyways.
Right.
So day starts early and it don't end till about 10:30, 11 o'clock tomorrow night.
Yep, we just become machines, man. Just
all right. Well, guys, Don, we're gonna let this play out, man, and we're gonna enjoy what is going to be, I guarantee, a very exciting weekend in racing.
Yes, sir.
We'll get back to you guys on Monday. All you listeners out there, enjoy the weekend. This is Motor Racing Podcast. Don.